We begin today the Gemara on Daf Tez Zayin Amud Beis, 2 lines up from the bottom of the Yamud. The Gemara quotes what it said in the Mishnah, Sanhedrin Gedola Haisa. So how big was the size of the Sanhedrin Gedola, the Sanhedrin in the Beis HaMikdash? So there's two opinions in the Mishnah. One opinion is, Rabbanan say that it was 71. And you learn it from Moshe Rabbeinu, because Moshe Rabbeinu then appointed 70 along with him. So Moshe and the Sanhedrin is 71. And the other opinion, Rabbi Yehuda says that no, it's only 70, not 71. So the Gemara will bring the source of and the explanation for both of these opinions. So the Gemara, my time at the Rabbanan. What's the reason that the Rabbanan say, the Omri, they say, O Moshe al Gabein, that together with the 70 in Parshas Baloischa, when Moshe Rabbeinu appoints 70 Zekanim, and Moshe Rabbeinu is together with them. Where do you see that Moshe Rabbeinu joins them? Amakra, the pasuk says, "V'hisyatzvu sham imach," that they, the 70, should stand there with you. Imach means that imach va'ad bahadayu. Imach means that you're going to be along together with them. So that's why we see that it's 71.
We should celebrate 71.
Oh, so the Mefarshim asked that question, that Moshe Rabbeinu himself is considered to be 71. So the answer, that's only when Moshe Rabbeinu judges himself. Then the Eibusha gives him the power that he could judge like 71. But when he's together with the other 70, then he's only counted as one. So therefore it's 71. Now Rabbi Yehuda, how does Rabbi Yehuda understand this pasuk? He says it's only 70. So what's the meaning of when it says here, Imach, that they were along with Moshe Rabbeinu? Imach means Mishum Shechina, it means something else. That it's saying to them that they should not go inside the Oil Mayid, they should stand outside because of the covet of the Shechina, they should stand outside of the Oil Mayid. That's one pshat Rashi says. Another pshat Rashi says is that imach means that they're saying, the Eibusha that is saying to the 70 Zekanim that the Shechina will dwell upon them, imach, like together with you, just like the Shechina dwell on Moshe Rabbeinu himself. So it's speaking about the presence of the Shechina. But it's not saying that Moshe Rabbeinu has to join them to be 71. It's only 70. The Rabbanan, according to the Rabbanan, from where do they see that they have to, so now the Gemara goes back to say that the Rabbanan will actually agree to Rabbi Yehuda that Imach over here is only Mishum Shechina. So what is their source that Moshe Rabbeinu is together with the 70 Zekanim? On Makrav, because there's another pasuk there that says afterwards, V'nosu itach b'masa ha'am, that they, the 70 Zekanim, will carry along with you the load of the people. So it says clearly, itach va'at b'hadayu, along with you means that Moshe Rabbeinu is together with them. Rabbi Yehuda will respond to this term of itcha here. Itcha means b'day melach, that you should choose 70 Zekanim that will be on your level, that are similar to you. But it doesn't mean, Rashi says, that michasan like you, they have no blemish like you, but not that you have to be along with them. For Rabbanan, the Rabbanan answer to that there's yet another pasuk, and this is actually earlier in Parshas Yisrael, where Yisrael is telling Moshe Rabbeinu to appoint judges. So over there it says, mivahokel mi'alecha v'nosu itach nafke. From there you learn out it says that they will make things easier for you and they will carry along with you. From there we learn out that it has to be that they will carry together with you and that they have to be similar to you. And v'yalfe Sanhedrin Gedola Sanhedrin Ketana, even though that pasuk in Parshas Yisrael is not speaking about 70. Only in Parshas Baloischa it speaks about 70 Zekanim. But we compare that just like by Sanhedrin Ketana it has to be Itoch, which is B'day Melach, so too over here by the Sanhedrin Gedola it has to be B'day Melach. So therefore once we learn it out from there, so the pasuk over here when it says V'nosu Itoch is extra. And from there we know that it means actually that Moshe Rabbeinu is along with the 70, so it's 71. But as the Mefarshim add, according to Rabbi Yehuda, we don't compare Sanhedrin Gedola to Sanhedrin Ketana. So therefore you need both of these psukim to say that they have to be b'daime to Moshe Rabbeinu. So you don't have a pasuk to say that Moshe Rabbeinu joined them as 71. Tana Rabbanan. So now we mentioned the 70 Zekanim that were chosen at the time in Parshas Baloischa when Moshe Rabbeinu, the Eibusha says that he should give the Yidden basar. They wanted slav and the basar. And Moshe Rabbeinu says, "Ma'ayin li basar." I can't take care of all the Yidden and give them basar, and that's when he appointed other 70 Zekanim. So there in that story, the pasuk says, "Vayisharu shnei anoshim b'machne." There were two that were left in the camp. So what does this mean? 2 of those 70 did not come over there to the El Maid, but they stayed in their tent in the camp. So what does this mean that they stayed? They were left over and they stayed. So one pshat is yesh omrim. Some say that what happened is as follows. The Kalfi Nishtairu, their names were left in the box where there was the lottery that was made for these 70 Zekanim. Now, why was there a lottery made here? So the Bryce explains as follows. When the Eibusha said to Moshe Rabbeinu, Esveli shivim ish meziknei Yisrael, gather for me 70 elders from Yidden. So Moshe Rabbeinu says, Ketzadesa, how am I gathering the number of 70? Evra shisha mikol shevet v'shevet. If I'll gather 12 from each shevet, so then 6 from each shevet, nimtzu shnaim yiseirim. Comes out to 72 from 12. So then it's going to be 2 extra. Evra chamisha mikol shevet v'shevet. If I'll only take 5 from each shevet, nimtzu asara chaseirim. That'll only be 60. So I'm missing 10. Evra shisha mishevet zeh v'chamisha mishevet zeh. So then I'll choose 6 from one shevet and 5 from another shevet. In other words, from 2 shvatim, only 5. Hareni matal kinu ben shvatim. So there'll be jealousy between the shvatim. Why do they get 6 and why do they only get 5? So what do you do? Ma also, what did Moshe Rabbeinu do? Birer shisha. He chose 6 from each shevet, which is 72. And then vehevi shivim ushnayim piskin al shivim. First again, vehevi shivim ushnayim piskin. He brought 72 pieces of paper. Now, I'll shiv him on 70 of them, kosav zokin. He wrote that you're a zokin. You'll be joining to be one of these elders. Shnayim, hiniach chalak. And 2 were left empty. And balalon, he mixed them, v'nosnan bekalfi, and he put them in a box. And Hamalahem, he said to these 72, Boyu etlu piskechem. Come, put your hand in the box and take out a note that says what your status is. Anybody that got a paper that it said on it that he's a zokin. So Omar Moshe Rabbeinu said to him, Kvar kitchecha shamayim. From heaven you've been sanctified, you've been chosen. The one that it came into his hands, a paper that was empty. So Moshe Rabbeinu said to him, Hamakim lechafetz b'cha. Hashem did not want you. Ani ma'asalach. What could I do for you? Okay, so that's what happened over here. And now the Elad and Medad, they were actually from the 2 that their paper was inside that it said Zakin. There was someone else that already got the empty piece of paper, and they were 2 that were supposed to be a Zakin. But nevertheless, they remained in their machna. They did not come to join to take their piece of paper. And this was because of their humility. They felt that they're not deserving for this. So that's what it means, that they stayed in the machna even though they did have their paper that it said Zakin on it. Now the Gemara here, the Braisa here, since it brought this kind of raffle that was made, so Kayetze b'davat ha'omer, this is a similar thing that was also done in Parshas Bamidbar, where it says v'lekachta chameshes shkolem lagulgeiles, that the bechayrim will be redeemed by the chameshes shkolem, like the pidyon aben with the five coins. That's how they should be redeemed. Now the thing is though, really the Leviim were the ones that redeemed the Bechayrim. The Bechayrim were the ones that were originally supposed to serve in the Beis HaMikdash, but the Leviim were in their place. Now, how many Bechayrim were there? There were 22,273 Bechayrim. How many Leviim were there? 22,000, even. So meaning that there was 273 Bechayrim that did not have a Levi to replace them. Those extra 273 had to redeem themselves with the Pidyon Aben, with the 5 coins. So now, Moshe says to the Eibishter, what should I do for the Yidden, for these Bechayrim? I'm going to go to any Bechayr and say to him, Tenli Pidyainach, pay the 5 coins to redeem yourself. And if it say, and you'll go out, you'll be redeemed. He'll say to me, Kfar Padani ben Levi, that for me, the Levi is taking my place. Maybe someone else should pay. So here as well, what did Moshe Rabbeinu do? He made a raffle. Hevi Eser Mishnayim Alofim Piskin. He brought 22,000 notes because of Aleim ben Levi, and on them he wrote that the ben Levi is replacing you. Val Shloisha V'Shivim U'Masayim, and on 273 notes, Kosav Aleim Chamisha Shkolim, that you have to pay 5 shkolim for this. Now Balalon, he mixed them, V'Nostam B'Kalfi, and he put them in a box. And Amalein, he told the B'Chayrim, Tlu Piskechem, come and take your note. Mishala biyad ben Levi. If you got the note ben Levi, so Amaloik for Padacha ben Levi. So he said to him that you're redeemed by a Levi. Mishala biyad chamesh shkolim, and the one that got a note that said you have to pay 5 shkolim. Amaloi 10 pidyanich v'tzei. So he had to pay to redeem himself. Just like similar to what was done over here regarding the 72, that there was only supposed to be 70 zekanim. Okay, so that's one pshat, the Yesh Oimrim, the first pshat in the Braisa here for what it says that in the pasuk Vayisharu Shnei Anoshim Banachma. Vayisharu, meaning that even though they were supposed to be from the elders, but they remained. They stayed in the machna. Another pshat, Rab Shimon Oimer, Rab Shimon says B'machna nishtayru. They stayed in the machna. Okay, let me go back a second. Actually, I sort of mixed these two pshatim together. According to the first pshat, when it says Vayisharu, Vayisharu doesn't actually mean that they stayed back in their tents in the Machna. Vayisharu just means that their notes stayed back in the box because they didn't take their notes. That's what it's referring to. Now, according to Rab Shimon, the main point over here is, even according to the first pshat, he also stayed behind. But the taich of the pasuk is that their notes stayed in the box. According to Rab Shimon, the taich of the words in the pasuk is that they stayed behind in the Machna. By Machna and the Shtairu, they stayed behind in the Machna. When the Eibusha said to Moshe Rabbeinu, Esvali Shivamish, gather for me 70 men, Omru Eldad and Medad. So Eldad and Medad, with their humility, they said, we're not fit for this greatness. When the Eibusha heard this, the Eibusha said, because you minimized your greatness, in other words, their humility, I'll add even more to your greatness. What was the added greatness that they got? Those, the others of the 70, they prophesied at that time, but then it stopped. They didn't continue prophesying later. But they prophesied then, when they were chosen on that day, and their nevuah never stopped. Now, when Eldad and Medad was saying nevuah later on, because their nevuah did not stop, what were they prophesying? So there's different opinions about this. One opinion is, Amru, they said, Moshe Meis, that Moshe will pass away, and Yeshua machnes as Yisrael la'aretz, and Yeshua is going to take the Yidden into Eretz Yisrael. Abba Chana says, Mishum Rabbi Eliezer, in the name of Rabbi Eliezer, that they prophesied something else. Al Iskei Slavim Misnabim. They were prophesying regarding the Slav, which was the reason they were chosen in the first place, to help with the Slav, to give Yidden the Slav. And they said, Ali Slav, the Slav is going to come up, the Slav is going to come for the Yidden. Rav Nachman says, they prophesied for Yemei Mashiach. Al Iskei Goyig u'Magog hoyu misnabim. They said their prophecy about the Mulchama of Goyig that comes from Magog to attack Yidden. That's what they were misnab about, what's going to happen before Mashiach comes. Shenemar, because there's a pasuk in Yecheskel where it speaks about the Mulchama of Goyig and Magog, and there it says, Koyamar Hashem Elokim, Ha'atu hu asher dibarti b'yamim kadmainim. Are you, when the king of Gog will come, so I'll say to him, are you the one that I spoke about you in the earlier days, B'yad Avdi Nevi'ei Yisrael, in the hands of my servants, the Nevi'im, Nevi'im B'yamim Aheim, that said Nevuah in those days, Shonim, in those years, Lahavi Oischa Aleim V'goyim, that you, the king of Gog, will come upon the Yidden. Now, so it says here Shonim, which literally is read as Shonim in those years. Al Tikri Shonim, but you don't read it as years, El Shnayim, that there were two prophets that prophesied about Goyig that comes from Magog. Ve'ezehein, who are these two? Shnayim Nevi'im. Ve'ezein Shnayim Nevi'im, Shnisnaba B'perik Echad, who are the two Nevi'im that prophesied together at the same time? Nevuah Achas, and it's one prophecy, Havayim Eldad Medad. This was Eldad Medad that prophesied about Goyig and Magog. Okay, till here's the Braisa. So now the Gemara goes through certain details in this Braisa. Omar, the Tana said in this Braisa, that Kol HaNevi'im Kulan Isnabu Posko. All the Nevi'im prophesied, but then it stopped. They didn't have their power of prophecy afterwards. Ve'hein Isnabu V'loi Posko. They, however, prophesied, and it did not stop. Minolo, from where do we see this difference? The Posko. How do we know that all the others, that their Nevuah stopped? If you're going to say, from what it says in the Pasuk, Midchsev, Vayisnabu, V'lo Yosafu, that they, the others, said Nevuah, but V'lo Yosafu, then they didn't add more. They couldn't say Nevuah more. That's what V'lo Yosafu would be translated as here. But Elamayata, but if that's the case, when it says B'matan Torah, when the Eibusha said the Noichi Avai Lekecha, and then it says that it was a Koil Godel, was a great voice, V'lo Yosaf. So if you're going to say V'lo Yosaf Hachanami V'lo Oisafu, does it mean to say over here that the voice of the Eibusha was stopped and it didn't add or didn't continue until the end of Aseres Adibris? You can't say that. Ella, what's the pshat in the word V'lo Yosaf when it says Koil Godel V'lo Yosaf? V'lo Pasaku. Over there it means actually the opposite. The word Yosaf sometimes could mean that it did not stop, it continued until the end. So over here as well, when it says by the Nevi'im, by the others of the 70, not Elo the Medad, it says Vayisnabu V'lo Yosafu. How do you know to translate that they said prophecy, but then they didn't add? Maybe over here it means that they said prophecy, and it never stopped. They continued prophesying later as well. So Elo, therefore the Gemara says, the reason we know to translate it this way is because Hachaksev, by the other of the 70, it says Vayisnabu, and they said Nevuah. But so that means at that time period. But Hassan by Elul the Meda the Ksiv, it says in the present tense, misnabim, that they are saying prophecy, which means adayim misnabim v'ayochem, that they continued prophesying even after that time period. So it's the change in the expression misnabim that means that they continued prophesying. Now the Gemara goes back to the opinions that were brought before in the Braisa. What was the content of their prophecy? So the first opinion was that they said Moshe is going to pass away, and then the second one was that they prophesied about the Slav, and the third was that they prophesied about Goy Gomogay. Says the Gemara Bishleim Elamandama Moshe Meis, according to the first opinion that said that their prophecy was that Moshe will pass away. Hainu D'chsiv, this is what the pasuk says afterwards, that Yeshua came running to Moshe Rabbeinu and he says, Adaini Moshe Kloim, my master Moshe, get rid of them. Because they're saying such a terrible nevuah that Moshe will pass away. But the other two opinions that they were prophesying about the Slav or about Lasud Lavai, Ma'adeni Moshe Kloim, why should they be eliminated? What's wrong with their nevuah? Answers the Gemara, because the lav oidachara, it's not their chere, it's the havalei ketalmid hamayra halacha lefnei rabbi. They're prophesying when Moshe Rabbeinu was the navi and the leader of the generation, and they're coming and prophesying about what's happening and about the future. It's not right that they should be saying something in the presence of Moshe Rabbeinu, and therefore Yeshua said that they should be eliminated. Another question the Gemara asks, according to the opinion that it says that they were prophesying about Lasad Lavoy or about the Slav. Hainu D'chsiv miyitain, that Moshe Rabbeinu, how did he respond to Yeshua? When Yeshua said that you should eliminate them, so Moshe Rabbeinu responds and says, what's the problem? Miyitain kol am Hashem neviim, that let all Yidden say nevuah like this. So we understand, because they were saying nevuah about something that was positive. But El Lamandama Moshe Meis, if their prophecy was something negative, that Moshe will pass away, Moshe Rabbeinu is happy with this. Why would Moshe Rabbeinu say, Halavai, all Yidden will prophesy like them? They're saying that he's going to pass away. Says the Gemara, Loi Seimua Kaimei, that when Yeshua told Moshe Rabbeinu that the elder the Meidad are prophesying, he didn't tell Moshe Rabbeinu what they were saying. He didn't want to say to Moshe Rabbeinu, they're saying that you're going to pass away. So Moshe Rabbeinu thought that if they're prophesying, is zechut, halavai, all Yidden should say prophecy. Now, my kloin, what does it mean when it says that Yeshua said to Moshe Rabbeinu, you should eliminate them? Amalei, Yeshua said to Moshe Rabbeinu, hatel aleyan tzorchi tzibur, put upon them the needs of the Yidden, that they should be taking care of the Yidden, ve'en kolan ma'aleyan, and they will vanquish on their own. They will be eliminated on their own, because when someone has the responsibility of tzorchi tzibur, it takes away his existence. Taisus here actually says that from this we understand when it says kolan ma'aleyan, he didn't mean that they should be eradicated or killed altogether. But what it means is that the nevuah should be taken away from them. Because one of the conditions for nevuah is nevuah only dwells on a person mitoch simcha. If they're going to have to take care of Klal Yisrael, they're going to lose their simcha. They're going to be down, atzvos, and therefore they won't have that koyach of nevuah. Going back to the Mishnah, it said, Minayin lahavi oich loisha. This is actually talking about the Bezdin of 23, the Sanhedrin Ketana, which is in every city. So it said in the Mishnah that there's 20, because it says in the pasuk twice, v'shaftu Eda v'itzilu Eda, and Eda is 10, so that's twice Eda, that's 20. And then the Mishnah says you have to have another 2, because in order to have a majority for the negative, if you want to be mechayiv someone misa, you have to have at least 2 in the majority, not 1. So in order to have 2 in the majority, you have to have another 2, so it could be 12 against 10. But then you can't have a bezdin shakel, you can't have an even bezdin of 22, so you add another one, so that's 3. That's what it said in the Mishnah. Okay, so now the Gemara asks on this, and now that you have 23, but in the end, what happens is, sof, and in the end of the day now, l'ra al pishnayim lo mishkachasla, that you can have the bezdin, that it should be tilting to the negative by 2 more in the negative against the others. It's not going to work when you have 23. And the Gemara spells out why not. Because when you have 23, how does the divide in the bezdin go when there's a majority here? If the case is that there are 11 that say that this person is zakai, that he's meritorious, and 12 say that he has to be put to death, so that's akati chadu. It's only 1 more, 12 against 11. So that's not enough. He can't be put to death here. You have to have, the whole point was to have enough that it should be set up in a way there should be 2 against the other ones. If the case is that there's one more now, that there's 13 that say that he's chayiv, and there's only 10 that say that he's zakai, so then tlosav. So then it's not 2. So then it's set up in such a way that now it's going to be 3 that are saying that he's chayiv. So having 23 does not, if you want to split down the bezdin, that it should be 2 more to that are mechayiv, it doesn't work out. So the Gemara gives 2 answers. One answer the Gemara says is, Rabavo said, you will not find the possibility that it should be 2 more that are mechayiv over the others that are saying zakai, elaba meisifin. Only in a situation where you're going to be forced to add more to the bezdin. When do you have to add more to the bezdin? So we had this once mentioned before, but this is a sugya later on Daf Mem, where it says, what happens if from these 23, one of them says, Eini Yedeya. I don't know, I have no clue how to paskin if he's zakai or chayev. In such a case, that one person, we don't count him at all anymore. And there, in such a case, you actually have to add another 2. And now that you add another 2, so it becomes a bezdin of 24. And when it's a bezdin of 24, so now you could have 12 that are mechayiv and 10 that are mezak. Again, you could have 4. You could have 12 that are mechayiv against 10. How does it work out? When you meisif another 2, so it ends up being 24. So then you could have two more, 13 against 11. That's what it is. Then you could have 13 that are going to say chayiv and 11 that are going to say zakai. But by the number of 23, it's either going to be 1 more or 3 more that are going to be mechayiv. But when you're forced to add and it becomes a bezdin of 24, then it'll be in such a case that it's two more that are mechayiv. That's v'divrei hakol. This is one pshat that we could say in our Mishnah, and that's everybody would agree to this. Or alternatively, we could say ubi Sanhedrin Gedaila, regarding the Sanhedrin Gedaila that's judging someone, and here there's an argument, and so now the divide in the bezdin by the Sanhedrin Gedaila of 71. So v'alibu de Rabbi Yehuda the Amma Shivim, according to Rabbi Yehuda, that says that the Sanhedrin Gedaila is 70. So over here it will come out. You could have 2 more that will be mechayiv over the rest that are mezakeh. So that's another pshat according to Rabbi Yehuda. But if it's 71, the number also will not work out. You could have 2 more. Those are the 2 pshatim in our Mishnah. Now, in connection to this, since we brought up this inyan here of a case where one person in the bezdin says, I don't know, and now you have to add another 2. So for Amar Rabavo said on this, b'maisifin, when you add another 2, when one of the bezdin says, I don't know, oisin bezdin shakal. It comes out that now your bezdin is going to be an even number, and that's l'chatchila. Even though usually a bezdin must be an odd number, it's in order that you should be able to have the divide, that it should be a reiv one way or another. But in this case, it's going to actually be a bezdin of 24. Because you took out 1, and then when you take out 1, you're supposed to add 2. Comes out to be a bezdin of 24. Says the Gemara Pshita, what Rabbi Vo is saying is obvious, because this is actually what it says in the Mishnah later, and on Daf Mem. It says clearly that you take out 1 and you add another 2, so it comes out to be even. So what's Rabbi Vo being mechadish with this? Says the Gemara, it's actually not so obvious, because Mao the Teime, I would think to say that the pshat of the Mishnah there is as follows. Hi, the Ka'oma Eini Yedeya. What happened over here is one said that I don't know. So I would still think that he's not completely put aside. Command the Isei Domi. He's still like part of the bezdin. And therefore, V'i Ama Milse Shaminale. If he then speaks up later and comes and says something, I see a reason why this person is chayiv, we will listen to him. So even after you added the 2, but this person that before said, I don't know, we still pay attention to his opinion, and therefore it actually ends up being like a bezdin of 25. So it's still an odd number. Kamash Malon, therefore Rabbi Vo was saying, the high to come any ideya, if one of the judges said, I don't know, command the lesedami. He's totally put aside, his opinion does not count at all. If he says that, now I see a reason why this person should be chayiv, lo shaminale, we don't listen to him anymore. So therefore it actually does end up being an even bezdin, a bezdin of 24. That was the chiddush of Rabbi Vo. But Rishonim actually say the fact that you don't listen to this person that said, I don't know, is only if he's coming to say something in the negative, to give this person a chiyuv misa. But if that person that before said, I don't know, speaks up and wants to say something in the positive, we actually do listen to him. Because b'chlal, anytime anyone speaks up in the positive and finds a schus, you don't even have to be part of the bezdin. Even a Talmud, anybody that's sitting in front of the bezdin and is listening and has this chus to say, he's supposed to say this chus. So in that sense, he could still speak up. Rav Kahane said, Sanhedrin shero kulan l'chayve. A Sanhedrin, that they all look at the case of this person, and right from the beginning, they all say, this person is clearly chayiv misa. So actually, in such a case, we pater this person. My time, what's the reason for this? Kiv in the Gemiri, because we know the halacha is halonas din. You have to sleep over. The bezdin cannot paskin when they hear the edim and all the evidence of a case. They cannot paskin right away on that day. They have to sleep over a night to have time to think it over. And that's the reason is in order to think over it, and maybe you can still find a merit for this person the next day. They'll pater him. And v'hani, but these. All the entire bezdin, right in the beginning, they said that this person is definitely chayiv, suleh chazaleh. They're not able to see any schus for this person, and therefore they cannot paskin for him. Okay, so this Gemara here, the Rebbe spoke about Barichas once, and it's in Lekutei Sichos Chelik Chavtes and Parshas Shoftim, and the Rebbe explained that in the Gemara here, it says sort of saying two different points. One point the Gemara is saying is that the point is that they can't sleep overnight, and that this halacha of halonas din does not apply to them because they have nothing to think over. They see right away that he's chayev. Well, then the Gemara says no. The main point is that su loy chazilei, that they can't see a schus for this person. It's not just the fact that they can't sleep over, but the main point is that they're not able to see a schus in this person. The Rebbe explains this in Barichas Gedoyel in the Sicha, and in the end, the Rebbe explains there, according to the Rambam, that a bezdin that's looking at a yid, and al pi Torah, we know that be'emes every yid has a schus. Even the yid that falls to the lowest level, the Rambam himself says, even a yid that you have to force to do a mitzvah, but be'emes he wants to do it, and even if you're hitting him, but that's his real ratzon. And the bezdin that cannot see that, so then, whatever bezdin, whatever psak din they want to give to this person cannot apply. The emes inyan of this einish of misa is really all a kapara, in order to cleanse this person and elevate this person. But a bezdin that's looking at this person and judging this person and wants to give a psak din, and they don't relate to the good that's inside the person, they don't see that at all, it's impossible for a bezdin to paskin regarding him. That's what the Gemara is saying here. And from here you see that when you look at a yid, it doesn't matter how low he falls, you always have to look deeper and be able to find that there's some schus, there's something good about this person. Rabbi Yochanan said, Ein meshivim b'Sanhedrin. Who do you appoint to be in a Sanhedrin? This is even also in the Sanhedrin Ketana of 23. Ela bali kaima has to be a person of stature, or bali chachma, people that are wise, or bali mare, people that have a impressive appearance. And Rashi here says that they have to be bali kaima and bali mare in order that they should be an intimidating person. You come into the bezdin, you should be afraid of the judges. Or bali zikna, people of an older age. Or bali kshofim, and also people that know kishuf, that know sorcery. Either in order that a person that's trying to avoid the punishment of bezdin by his kishuf, bezdin should be able to handle that and undo that, or that bezdin should be able to expose a person's kishuf. So bezdin has to be themselves proficient in this kishuf. And v'yoyde and ba'ayin loshen, and bezdin also has to know all 70 languages. And the reason for this last point is Shalei Sanhedrin Shemas Mipia Torgemen. So bezdin that's listening to testimony, and someone says, "Hey, this in another language," bezdin should not have to listen secondhand from a translator, but they can listen directly themselves. Rav Yehuda said in the name of Rav, "Ein meshivim b'Sanhedrin." You do not include in a Sanhedrin Elomi, only an individual sheyideya letayres hasheretz min haTorah, one that's able to give reasoning why a sheretz, which causes tumah, why this sheretz is tired. Only one that can find reasoning for this. In other words, it has to be someone that's very sharp. So Taisus here actually asks a question. All the Rishonim address this. What does this mean? That this is the sharpness that we're looking for. Someone that can say something that's hepech haTorah, that he's going to be metayir a sheretz. So Taisus gives an answer from Rabbeinu Tam, which is not the simple pshat of the Gemara, but in the simple pshat of the Gemara, the Rishonim say what it's saying is that al pi seichel you can find explanations for why a sheretz should be tired. But it's not that he's saying that a sheretz is tar. There's exedus hakosov that the Torah says that the sheretz is tamei anyways. But he can find a reason al pi Torah that the sheretz is tar, al pi seichel. That's the sharpness of the person. The Mashal adds to this, that this is connected to the point that we just said, that when you see a yid that may look in your eyes to be like a sheretz, and you're able to find this chus in him, that's the remez the Gemara is saying here, that a person that's in the Sanhedrin has to be a person that's able to find something positive even in the lowest place, even like in a level of a yid that looks to be as tummy as the sheretz. So Amar Rav, again?
It's still going to be tummy.
The sheretz is actually still tummy, correct. Amar Rav, so Rav said, Ani Adam v'tarenu. Let me try. I'll say a kal v'chaimer, which will prove why a sheretz should be toher. So he said a kal v'chaimer as follows. Uma nochosh. So now take a snake. Shememis umar betumah. A nachash kills an animal, it kills a human being, and therefore he brings a lot of tumah into the world. Because if you touch a person now that the nachash killed, you become tamei, or different behemoths that are nevelis, you become tamei. So tahir. But the nachash himself, a dead nachash is actually tahir. He's not one of the 8 shrotzim that the Torah says that causes tumah. The nachash himself is tahir. So even though he adds and brings a lot of tumah into the world, but he himself is tahir. So sheretz she'ein memis, a sheretz that does not kill others and does not umar betumah and does not increase tumah in the world, and it didn't she'ei tahir. Definitely he should be tahir. That was a kal v'chomer Rabbi said, or Rav rather said. But the Gemara says on this kal v'chomer v'loihi, even the kal v'chomer is also doesn't hold water. It's not logical, because midi dehava akoitz ba'alma, the fact that the nachash kills a person or another animal does not show that there's a svara here to say that he has more shaykhis to tumah. It's no different than just like a piece of a thorn that causes someone to die. So the fact that the thorn causes someone to die is not a svara to say that he should have more of a shaykhis to tumah. So therefore, this kal v'chomer that the nachash has more shaykhis to tumah and still he's tired is not b'chlal a kal v'chomer. Amar Rav Yudah Amar Rav Yudah said in the name of Rav, Kol ir she'ein bo shnayim l'daber v'echad l'shmaya, a city that does not have at least 2 people that can speak all languages, and one that could understand, even if he can't speak, but at least he can understand all languages. You cannot establish a Sanhedrin in it, because you have to have a Sanhedrin that you have at least 3 that are able to understand all languages. In the city Beitar, they had 3 that were able to speak all languages. And in Yavne, it was a city that they had 4 that were able to speak all languages. And who were the 4? Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Yeshua, Rabbi Akiva, Shimon HaTimni. And Shimon HaTimni actually, Don Lifnei Bekarka. Shimon HaTimni did not have smiche, and therefore doesn't say Rebbe in front of his name. Shimon HaTimni was still a student, and therefore he would also join the discussion of the judgment, and he would sit in front of them like a student that sits still on the ground. Okay, so here, what it says in the Gemara here, the Mefarshim point out, seems to be different than what it said before. On Amar Aleph, it said that if you want to join a Sanhedrin, you have to know all 70 languages, which means that all 23 have to know all 70 languages. Over here, it seems to be saying that just 3 is enough. So from here, some bring a raya to what it says in Rishonim, that even when you're judging a case of Dinei Nefashis, not all 23 have to listen and understand the words of the Edom directly. It's enough that 3 are listening. But then later, when it comes to the Psak Din has to be by 23. But it's enough if only 3 understand the Eidus that's being said, and then the others just listen, Eid Mipiyed, and the others tell them over what was said. That's one of the Pshatim the Rishonim say, proving here from this Gemara. Now the Gemara asks on what Rav said, that you have to have 2 that can speak, and a 3rd that can listen, but even if the 3rd can't speak all languages. So the Gemara asks this from a Braise, Meisvei, the Braise says, Shlishis Chachame. If you have 3 that are able to speak all languages, then Chachame. This is the wisdom that's required for a Bezdin, and then they're fit to be a Bezdin. So it says here clearly 3, the Braise here, when it says Shlishis, it means 3 that are able to speak all 3 languages. Now, Revius, if you have 4, then Ein Lamaila Mena. There's nothing better than this. That's the best Bezdin. But Rebbe said it's enough if only 2 can speak all 70 languages. So Gemara says, Hu, the Amar Kaitana. So Rav is saying what it says, like in another Braise, the Tanya, in another Braise it says, Shniya Chachama, if only 2 can speak all languages, that's the wisdom required, and that's a good Bezdin. Shlishis Ein Lamaila Mena. If you have 3 that can speak all languages, then there's nothing better than this. Okay, now here the Gemara will go through a list of different expressions that you have in Shas many times when there's a statement that's said in the name of someone, and it's not said by name who that person is, but it uses an expression where he came from or in front of who he said it. And the Gemara here is going to give us the klal to identify who that person is. The reason the Gemara brings this up here is because it mentioned before Shimon HaTimni that was sitting as a student on the ground, and therefore it brings now also different chachamim that were students or in different situations that it doesn't mention them by name, and now it'll tell us who they are. So the Gemara starts like this. When it says in the Gemara, L'meidin l'fnei chachamim, that those that were learning in front of the chachamim, who is this referring to? Levi mi Rebbe. Levi that learned from Rebbe. When it says in the Gemara an expression of Donim, Lifnei Chachamim, those that were discussing in front of the Chachamim, so who are those that were discussing in front of the Chachamim? It's Shimon ben Azai, V'Shimon ben Zayma, and V'Chanan HaMitzri. and V'chananya ben Chachinoi. So all of these, as you see, there's no word Rebbe in front of the name because they didn't have smicha, but they were the students that were discussing in front of the Chachamim. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak added one more, which is what we had before, Shimon Atimni. So Masni, he said that there's Chamisha, that there's 5, because there's Shimon, V'Shimon, the 2 Shimons that were mentioned before, Shimon ben Azai and Shimon ben Zayma, and then we add Shimon Atimni, that was mentioned before, and Chanan V'Chananya. Rabbi Yisrael Bavel. When it says in the Gemara a statement in the name of our teachers of Bavel, who are they? Rav Shmuel. Rabbi Yisrael Eretz Yisrael. Who is our teachers in Eretz Yisrael? Rab Abba refers to Rab Abba. Dayane Gaila. Who are the judges of Gaila, which is also in Bavel? This is Karna. Refers to Karna. Dayane Eretz Yisrael. The judges of Eretz Yisrael is Rab Ami v'Rabasi. Dayane the Pumbedisa. Who's the judges in Pumbedisa? Rav Papa bar Shmuel. Dayane the Nerda. Rav Ade bar Minyomi. Sabi the Sura, the elders of the city of Sura, is Rav Huna v'Rav Chista. Sabi the Pumbedisa, the elders of Pumbedisa, is Rav Yehuda v'Rav Eina. Charifi the Pumbedisa, the sharp individuals of Pumbedisa, is Efa v'Avimi, which were Bnei Rachba, the children of Rachba. Amirai the Pumbedisa, who are the Amiraim of Pumbedisa? Rabba v'Rav Yosef. Amirai the Nerdai, who are the Amiraim of Nerdai? Rav Chama is Rav Chama. Nahar Beloi Masnu, when it says in the Gemara that the Nahar Beloi taught, this is Rami Bar Berebi. Again, what? What does it mean, Nahar Beloi is, I think, a name of a place. The one from Nahar Beloi taught. So this is Rami Bar Rebi. Now, when it says Omri Bei Rav, that it was taught by the yeshiva of Rav, it was said by Rav. Who is this? Rav Huna. So Rav Huna said this by Rav. Now, on this, the Gemara asks, V'ha'amar Rav Huna, but Rav Huna himself uses this expression. Rav Huna says, Omri Bei Rav. It was said by the yeshiva of Rav. So Rav Huna is not quoting himself when he says Omri Bei Rav. Ella says the Gemara Rav Amnuna. So therefore, Omri Bei Rav refers actually to Rav Amnuna. But Taisvis here and Rashi in another place say that the Gemara is not really retracting from what it said before. Really, when it says in the Gemara Omri Bei Rav, it does refer to Rav Huna. It's only that one time when it said that Rav Huna himself said Omri Bei Rav, that he was saying it in the name of Rav Amnuna, that said it by Rav. When it says in the Gemara Omri b'Marave, that they said in the west, which is in Eretz Yisrael, west of Bavel, this is Rabbi Yirmiyah. Sholchum mitam, when it says that they sent from there, which is also from Eretz Yisrael, this is Rabbi Yosi bar Chanina. Now, when it says in the Gemara Machku Allah b'Marave, that in Marave they laughed about this, or they scoffed on a certain statement that was said in Bavel, this is Rabbi Loza. And this last point, the Gemara asks, but we find v'hasholchu mitam. We have a statement that it was sent from there, from Eretz Yisrael, and what was sent? That l'divrei Rab Yosi bar Chanina, that according to Rab Yosi bar Chanina, so and so. So how could you say that sholchu mitam is Rab Yosi bar Chanina if it says that they sent from Eretz Yisrael to comment about something that Rab Yosi bar Chanina said? Elo, therefore the Gemara corrects the last two and says, Eipach, you have to switch them. Sholchu mitam, when it says that they sent a statement from Eretz Yisrael, that's Rabbi Lazar. When it says Machku Allah b'Marave, that they scoffed in Eretz Yisrael about something, this is Rabbi Yosi bar Chanina. That refers to Rabbi Yosi bar Chanina. Okay, the Gemara goes back to what it said in the Mishnah, V'kami yehei be'ir, v'yehei ru'il Sanhedrin. How many people is a city that it should be fit to be a city that they appoint 23 for Sanhedrin? So there were two opinions in the Mishnah. One is Mei v'Esrim, you have to have a city of 120. And then the Mishnah said another opinion, which is Rav Nechemia, the Gemara is soon going to explain, which is there has to be 230. Okay, so the Gemara, Mei v'Esrim, Mei v'Detayu. What's this number of 120? So the Gemara goes through here al cheshbon how you get to the number of 120. Esrim v'shleisha, so you start with the number of 23. You have to have 23 people in the city. Can I get Sanhedrin Ketana? So have the Sanhedrin Ketana of 23 in the city. And then v'shalosh shurais shel esrim v'shleisha, you have to have in front of the bezdin of 23. There are 3 rows of chachamim, and each row is 23 chachamim that are sitting in front of the bezdin. So that if anyone in the bezdin has to be replaced. So this is a Mishnah later in the Masechta that says that he was able to then take and replace from those rows of the Chachamim. So now you have 3 times, or 4 times actually, 23, the Bezdin, and then the 3 rows, Hare Tishim V'Tarti. So that's already 92. And then V'asara Batlanan Shel Beis HaKnesses. Every city has to have 10 people that at any time can go away from work and can come and be in shul in order to be available for a minyan, to daven. As the Rashi brings from the Gemara in Brachas that the Eibusha says that if he comes to shul and he doesn't find Asara Batlanim, the Eibusha is Kayis. The Gemara in Megillah that says that a city, to be considered a city, has to have the Asara Batlanim in the shul. So that's 102 people in the shul. And then you have to have a Shnei Seifrim, 2 scribes that write for the Bezdin. There are 2 Bali Dinim, so you have to have one that writes the words of the ones that are Zakai, the ones that say that he's Zakai, and the ones that say that he's Chayiv. Shnei Chazonim, and also Bezdin has to have 2 Shamoshim that give Malchus, or they summon someone to the Bezdin. Shnei Bali Dinim, and then there's 2 Bali Dinim that are being judged. And Shnei Eidim, and then there has to be another 2 to be witnesses for this Din Torah, and then a Shnei Zaymimin, another 2 in order to come and say that these Eidim are saying a lie, and a Shnei Zaymimin, and then another 2 in order to say that these Zaymimin said what they said is a lie, because if you're not going to have another 2, then you'll just hire another 2 Eidim to be Mazim the first, and you'll get away with it. So you have to have another 2 to be able to be Mazim the second group of Eidim. So where are we holding? Hare Meyev Arbesa. So that's already 114 in total. Now why is there another 6? Vitanya, and also we learned in the Braisa about a city, Kol Ir, She'ein ba asar dvarim alolu, a city that does not have the following 10 things, Ein Talmid Chacham Rashay Loda B'Seicha. A Talmid Chacham should not live in this city. And that's a Bezdin, Makin Va'inshin, a Bezdin that enforces law and gives punishment. The Kupa Shel Tzedakah, and there has to be a fund, a Tzedakah fund, which is Nigbis B'Shnayim. The tzedakah is collected with 2. Anytime you collect any authority over a tzibur, is never one person. Always has to be at least 2. And the money is distributed with 3, because it's no different than Dine Mominus, that always has to be judged by 3. And Ubeis HaKnesses, it's a city that has to have a shul. Ubeis HaMercha, it's a bathhouse. Ubeis HaKisei, and a bathroom. A reifa, a doctor, or the Rashi says that the reifa is also to make a bris milah for the children. V'uman, and a blood letter, v'lavlor, and one that writes svarim, and according to some, we're going to see also v'tabach, a sheikhit, u'melamed, tinaikis, and one that teaches children. And Mishum Rabbi Kiva Omru, the name of Rabbi Kiva was said, Af mine peire, has to be a city where they also have fruits available to eat. Mipnei shemine peire, when you eat fruits, meirin esayinayim, they're healthy and they illuminate your eyes. So therefore Rashi says that the cheshbon of the Gemara here to add another 6 is, there has to be 5 in order to collect the tzedakah, which is 2, and distribute the tzedakah another 3, and then one more person which can be a jack of all trades, and he can be the doctor, the blood letter, and the scribe. Yeah, therefore that's another 6. So that's the total of 120 in the city. Okay, let's just finish off to the end of the Peirik. The other opinion: how many people do you need in a city in order to have a bezdin there? A Sanhedrin Ketana. Rab Nechemia Omer, there has to be 230. Now 230, the Mishnah itself explained the reason for this, because if it's a bezdin of 23, just like by Moshe Rabbeinu, one of the bezdins that he appointed was that it should be 1 judge for each of 10 people. So if there's 23, that means 1 judge for each of 10 people. That's a city of 230. Well, the Gemara now brings there a third opinion. Tanya, in a Braisa we learned, Rabbi said, Masayim v'shivim v'shiva, that it has to be a city of 277. That means that besides the 230, we're adding another 47 people to the city in order for that to be a bezdin. What's the addition of another 47 people? So Rashi explains, based on what we see from the continuation of the Gemara here, that we learned before, what happens if one of those 23 says, I don't know, so you have to add another 2. What's if then someone else says, I don't know, you have to add another 2. Like this, you have to continue adding another 2. How much do you add? You add up until 70. That's the maximum that you add. So in order to add more and more up until 70, that comes to the total of another 47, and therefore Rebbe says it has to be a city of 277. Like the Gemara, but Vatanya and another Braisa we learned, Rebbe Yoime, Masayim, B'Shivim, B'Shmaina, that has to be a city of 278. And says the Gemara, Leikashia ha Rabbi Yehuda, the first Braisa is Rabbi Yehuda, that the Sanhedrin Gedailo was 70, and therefore this bezdin in the city, when you add more dayanim to it, it's only up to 70, so that comes to 277. And ha Rabbanon, and according to the Rabbanon, where the Sanhedrin Gedailo is 71, so you have to have another 48 in order to add up to the number of 71. Tana Rabbanon and Abraisa we learned about the judges that were appointed in the time of Moshe Rabbeinu when Yisro advised to add more judges. So it says, V'samta aleim sari alafim. You add ministers, in other words, judges that are going to judge thousands. And then it says sari meyos, those that are going to judge hundreds, and sari chamishim, those that are going to judge 50, and v'sari asares, and those that are going to judge 10. So what this means is, sari alafim, those that are judging 1,000, that means, how many Yidden were there when they came out of Mitzrayim? 600,000. So that means 1 judge for 1,000 is sheish meyos. That's 600 judges for 600,000. Sari meyos, the ones that are judging 100, each one of these judges are appointed to judge 100, that's Sheshes Alafim, that's 6,000 judges. Sari Chamishim, the ones that are appointed to judge 50 Yidden, that's Shnei Mas'alef, so they are 12,000. Sari Asarais, the ones that are appointed to judge 10, that's Sheshes Riboy, that's 6,000 judges. Nimtzut comes out, Dayana Yisrael, the judges that were appointed then amongst Yidden, it was a huge number. Shivas Riboy Ushmainis Alafim, 78,000 V'sheish Meyos, and 600. That's how many judges Yidden had then to help Moshe Rabbeinu. Hadran Allah, Dinei Mamis, we shall return to you the first Perek of Sanhedrin, Perek Dinei Mamis. The question that Taisvis and the Rishonim address here, and the very last point that the Gemara says is that why is it saying the Gemara here this cheshbon? Once you appointed already from the first group of Sari Alafim 6,000, so that you should already deduct that from the number of Klal Yisrael. And now when you appoint the next group, it should already be after that deduction, so it shouldn't be the amount of 600 and so on in the next. So why aren't we? So Taisus here has a pshat. One of the pshatim is that the ones that were appointed earlier were not taken from Klal Yisrael itself. They were taken either from those that were above the age of 60, because the number of 600,000 of Klal Yisrael is only between 20 and 60, or they were taken from Shevet Levi that were not counted in this count. But only the last group that were the Asadais that were what was it? Sheshes Riboy that were 6,000 or 60,000. They were the ones that were taken from Klal Yisrael, but not the ones before were not taken from Klal Yisrael.